And we are live. Good morning. Happy Monday. How are you today? I hope you're having a good morning today. If you're not, then first off, I'm sorry because I've had some of those mornings recently. But you can change it. It can change. It only takes a second to change your day. So welcome to Getting on Track Together. I'm Nathan. This is Junior, as you know.
Yeah.
And today we've got a very special guest with us, Dave. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you very much. Nice
Dave
to be
Pichilngi.
here.
I'm going to ask you about who, what you do, etc., etc. We'll give a proper introduction in a couple of minutes' time.
Yeah,
So as it's Monday, Getting on Track Together, we are in the community lounge at Runcorn Station, and you can hear the announcements in the background there. Our lovely little friend.
If you're listening to that, as we always say, you've missed the train.
You're too late, yeah. If you can hear that, yeah. So today I've got a couple of topics today. Really, our main thread running through today was. Give me a second. Healing. That was it. That was when you've got that Monday morning brain on. I do love Mondays, but it's just sometimes my brain just takes a little bit of time to wake up. So today that's the sort of the topic, the theme is about healing. So my quote. We always share a quote of the week. So my quote for today is relevant to healing as well, and it's from somebody called Rochelle Nickel. So I've never heard of this person. It could just be any YouTuber or I don't know. I show my scars so that others know they can heal. I like that. I like that a lot because when we have something like something traumatic to us and we get upset, then our nature is to just close up, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I really like that. So I show my scars so that others know they can heal. That's a really good way of putting it, I think, because we sort of relate to each other, don't we? So if you see somebody who's gone through a lot of stuff, and then they're open about it, and I think that helps, doesn't it?
I'm not sure my scars.
Oh no, maybe not the physical scars. I've got a friend who had a really good one actually. He was at work and he had the door slammed on his little finger, so the top of his little finger's gone.
That's a good scar.
Yeah, it's a good. And do you know how many jokes he can get off that?
Sounds more like a mutilation.
Yeah, it is really. Yeah, should have a trigger warning on that.
Yeah.
He sent me a picture as well, so if like
squeamish,
no.
Nothing like that. We had, Dave, we have had some really cool guests on here, including yourself. And a few weeks ago, we had somebody called Naomi from Animal Teach come in, and she does she goes around all schools and conferences, different places, award-winning business as well, with little animals, and some of them not so small. And one of them was a snake, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
And Junior, live on this show, you faced up to your fear.
Faced up to my fear holding a snake.
Yeah, wow, it was amazing, really, really
unreal, Dave.
What kind of snake was it?
It was a python. It's got to be called Monty.
It
was, Monty the python. Yes, that was really cool. And she.
They don't feel like anything you'd imagine.
No, they don't. No.
You'd imagine to feel quite slithery with quite scaly, really.
Yeah. Looking at me like I was dinner. Oh yeah.
I thought she liked you. I thought you hit it off straight away.
Yeah.
We have got lots of stuff coming up this month as well. Do you know of Tributes on the Hill? Have you heard of that festival?
No.
So that's a music festival over the end of June, isn't it? Because usually I forget the dates. You know, when I'm sat here and then it's like dates that just go out of your head. So.
Yes.
But so Tributes on the Hill is this music festival over Frodsham Higher Mickledale, I think it says, or Mickledale. And they have about 3,000 to 5,000 people go there, and it's over 3 days.
I'm guessing it's all tribute acts.
Yeah.
Some tribute acts and some
originals.
There's a couple of originals.
Yeah. And I think Jenny Colquitt is on as well, isn't she?
Yeah.
But so that's a really good festival. So we're going to be there. It's good to talk. And one of the things that we do is have like a drop-in gazebo for events, so that people can just come in and sit down and just have a moment or find out what you're doing. Networking, signposting. Sometimes it's just when you're at an event, just needing that bit of a chill space.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. You don't know when it's going to become overwhelming.
No. So, Dave, welcome. Thanks ever so much for coming out, mate. Really appreciate it. I know you've got a busy few days coming up, which I want to hear about after. But would you mind just sort of introducing yourself, who you are and what it is that you do?
My name's David Pichilingi. I always describe myself as a generalist, not a specialist. I know a lot about a lot of things, but I'm not really specialised in any of them.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
I'm a good connector. I've worked in music probably for the. I'm 60 now, so I've worked in music.
You don't look at Dave.
From I was thank you, Junior. You don't look at that. But I've worked in music professionally, I guess. Oh no, forget professionally. I've worked in music since I was 16 years of age.
Yeah,
You know, from the first desire to be in a band, really. You know, and then I've worked in it professionally from about the age of about 27, 28. You know, and I've just always, I think it's a calling, like many areas are really. We were talking before this interview really about, you know, the way we get into it. There are training ways to go into it now, but there wasn't. Certainly when I joined it, I trained as an actor actually. I did an acting degree first, so to kind of pursue that career in music. My first ever job was working in Ford Motor Company as an electrician. I can't change a plug. You know, I did serve my time as an electrician.
Well, you got the spark, though, Dave. You got the
Dad
spark.
always said, yeah, you know, spark, exactly. You could always fall back in it, but thankfully I've never had to fall back on it. But I've worked in music all those years pretty much, and I've done everything really. I you know, and I still continue to do a lot of these things: manage artists, owned and run clubs, promoter, worked in publishing, records, and as an artist at the very beginning of it. And so I've got a very good broad understanding of the industry. And I think, like a lot of music people, particularly in the field that I work in, contemporary music, it's about ears and it's about good record collections, really. I really do believe it's about that. You know, I don't think you can train that. It's about instinct. It's about taste. You know, and taste. Don't get me wrong. Taste is very subjective. You know, just because I don't like something doesn't mean it's not great. It just means I don't like something.
That's it. Yeah.
And being the nature of the business, I can talk about it specifically if you want to go to it. But being in the business that I'm in, it's driven by, first and foremost, by taste and the taste of the people that work in my team with me. Yeah. But my companies now, I have you know, the journey I've been on through all of those years is two now. I have a company called Soundcity, which is a festival business. Yes, yeah. We do festivals in the UK and around the globe for ourselves and for other people. We also have a big Bowie World Fan Convention taken to New York this year. Okay. We can talk about that later if you want. And then Modern Sky, which is records management and publishing. You know, so working with artists in that area. So we kind of a kind of 360 model, I guess, in terms of the way the services that we offer for artists.
So you mentioned just about, there was a couple of things. One is you said about the event New York. You said you're doing something.
We're taking the Bowie event to New York.
So what's that?
It's it's very simple. It's a David Bowie World Fan Convention.
Yeah.
It was something that came through lockdown, like us all when we were all in the midst of lockdown. You can only ride your bike and do yoga so many hours a day, really. You know, so you know, what are you going to do? Something on, you know, other things really. So I was always a David Bowie fan when I was growing up as a kid. He was my first love, I guess, from you know, being obsessed with an artist. And so I just thought it'd be good to do a David Bowie World Fan Convention. You know, there are others doing it, but we do it in a slightly different way, and we've kind of, the aesthetic is really high in terms of the brand and the people that we bring to it. So we did it in the UK last year. We're taking it to New York this year.
Right. That's amazing.
So you know, so it's something that seems to have captured the imagination of people as well.
I hope it all comes off. Really.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's in June this year. Yeah.
June.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anybody is watching and they may be over that
it's
way,
sold out actually.
Oh, it's sold out, so you can't get tickets.
So can't get tickets actually for it, you know. But yeah, if you want to message me, I might get them on the guest list.
Yeah,
like it over there. Anyway.
You said when you were just starting talking, you said about the calling. So what do you mean by that?
I think you know, if I give my example of music, it just, my mum was a singer. You know, my mum sang all her life, so me and my brother were raised with, you know, my mum singing, going to Butlins and Pontins camps and so on, you know. So it was always around us, that kind of Peter Kay social club kind of thing, really. You know, that was the upbringing that we had. My mum always said she got it from her mum, and me and my brother definitely got it from our mum, really. You know, so it was just something that felt natural, and other people were kind of. So I guess here's the example: working in Fords, even though that's what everyone was doing in that time in the 70s, whether at Fords or ICI or whatever else it might be. It was a great job. It was a job for life, but it didn't feel right for me. It just felt that that another path lay my way that I had to go. Really, I'm staying in Fords would have been an easy option. In those days, they were jobs for life. I've still got friends actually who just retired now from being in Fords all that time, really, and they loved it. They moved through the ranks, the hierarchy of an organisation like that, and had a very good working life. For me, it was people said, "Oh, you'll never leave because of the comfort of something like that." And I did. As soon as I'd finished my time, I decided to hand my notice in and leave because it just didn't feel for me. For me, it felt like either acting, because I did love doing that as well. I loved that side of it, or performing in some way and being in bands. And I was in bands from the age of 16. I can't play an instrument. To this day, I can't play an instrument. I've not got the patience. If I learn guitar, I'd have to be able to learn it within 10 minutes.
It's not possible, Dave. Bert Whedon said that. It doesn't work.
Who said that?
Bert Whedon. Remember?
Exactly.
Oh, do
you remember? Yeah.
Bert Whedon. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he lied for people like me. You know, so I have tried.
Yeah.
You know, and I've tried for longer than 10 minutes, but that wasn't me. But it didn't. You know, so writing songs, poetry, whatever you want to call it, when you were young and so on, and then working with artists to develop those things. I'm always in awe. I mean, I've worked with musicians all my life, and I'm always in awe of musicians, you know. I sometimes think it's a blessing not playing an instrument, and I'll tell why. Because, again, even when I'm in the studio with acts, I'm not really interested in the sound of a cymbal or the sound of a snare drum. Or I don't care. You know, it's too much detail for me. You know, it's kind of I'm sure it's really, really important, and the producers, the role they play is vital to developing the sound of an artist. But for me, it's about the final thing, really. It's about the song. It's about the voice, you know, if there are vocals in it and so on. So I've always been slightly impatient and wanted the final thing, really, you know. And I get very, very excited. We were talking about a vocalist before we came into this interview, telling me about, you know, I get very excited about hearing new voices, finding new artists. I love artists at the start of the journey. I think it's great when you can work with generally young artists and begin to build that picture. And I think not being a musician really, really helps sometimes then, because I have that holistic view of the whole thing.
I disagree. They're saying you're not being a musician.
Well, I'm a singer, but you know,
music is not being a musician. I think anyway, is not just about playing an instrument. It's knowing about music and understanding music, and you're a singer, so your vocal cords, that's your instrument.
No, that's
you don't play something, so
I understand.
You know about music.
What I do understand is arrangements for songs.
Exactly.
You know, I'll know. I think, you know, no, you should drive it more there. You should pull it back more there. Maybe some brass in there, maybe some strings there, some things. So that kind of thing I can do, but then I'll just talk about that and I'll leave the studio and hope that they'll reinterpret.
But without your input, in something like that, they mightn't be able to see it, because some people, as you know, some people are really good at certain things, and some people aren't. So as you with a team, you've got. I think, you know, you can pull all that stuff together and make it happen. Or someone, if you went there, it probably wouldn't happen.
Well, it probably would, but in a slightly different way, which is not necessarily the wrong way. By the way, you know, it just wouldn't be my way.
Coming back to you said so about the calling part of it, right? How you were sat, you said in work at Fords. And even though you did it, it never felt right. So I can relate to that, and I think you can as well, Jimmy, in your life, right? When you've been doing things that. And when we were talking off air, weren't we, about exams at the moment? It's a big stress for people, isn't it? So for how I see it, and I'd love to get your take on it, is that there could be loads of people sat right now stressing about their exams, and maybe they think that they're not going to do what they're expected to do.
Mm.
But it's important, isn't it, that you sort of realise that as important as an exam could possibly be to your life, it could also be inconsequential to your life and the path that you end up on.
I think it's very difficult to talk to young people and to make them see that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, though, I mean, I speak firsthand about. I've got my daughter's 16 years of age, and I know her and her peer group of friends really. And no matter how much you say, look, you know, this is just part of the journey, they don't see it like that. I think however they've been conditioned, and I guess it's school by school. However they're conditioned within the school, I think has a massive impact upon kids, really, upon young people. I know, you know, when did it ever become a thing, for example, where I remember, because there was CSEs in old, you know, in O levels, certainly when I did it. I don't remember doing 3 papers for a CSE maths or CSE physics. You know, it was 1 paper in and out, really.
Yeah.
And now it seems like there's so much testing.
Yeah.
So much, you know, under these conditions of exams, you know, that it puts so much pressure on young people. I know there's a lot been written about it, a lot been talked about it. And I think sometimes my generation, possibly your generation, we're slightly dismissive, saying, oh, we went through it. We did it as well. You know, you'll get through it, you know. I don't think it was as hard then. It has changed. Yeah. It really has changed. And I think with the added pressures that obviously teachers get as well through Ofsted reporting and, you know, they're being measured all the time as well. We've come out of COVID, and so there's all this confusion about, do we get a bit more slack on the testing than we were? So I think there's some confusion there. And so this just adds, I think, to the whole confusion of the student going through the journey, really, and ultimately stress, really.
Yeah,
you know.
Constant stress.
I spoke to my daughter the other day. She cried. You know, she won't mind me saying she cried in her maths exam. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, what have we come to where that kind of thing is happening, really? And that you just don't know the ripple effect, because we all know that it's not like you can just say, oh, that was a moment, it's gone, because that will have impact further down your life. That could trigger panic attacks. It could trigger all kinds of things.
Exactly.
And so I think, you know, something should be done. I'm not quite sure what the answer is, but you know, it's not a good situation we find ourselves. But I think talking to young people saying, "Oh, don't worry about it too much," I don't think it's going to work, because they will anyway.
Yeah.
Because if their friends are worrying, then they're going to worry, really, you know. And who's going to listen to the parents?
Well, exactly.
You know, if the parent tells you not to, then you definitely worry, because what do you know?
That's probably true. Exactly.
Yeah. You read that right. Like I said before, I think the realization that our society and civilization as humans, we've done okay for thousands of years without being reliant and dependent on the exams. I was very interested. I shared something. Finland. In Finland, they have a totally different. A few years ago, apparently, 60s, I think, their education system was on a par with the US, so quite low down in rankings and all that. So they changed it. Instead of just going with it, we do here, just keep plodding along, doing more tests. They decided to change it from the grassroots up, so the children start school a lot later there, like 7, 8 years old. And they have no homework as well. And their education ranks over the last number of years, it's gone 1, 2, 3. So it's always like the highest, around the highest.
I think the whole of Scandinavia does have a much better, in terms of general healthcare and everything. Really, I think there's much better. We could learn a lot from the Scandinavians. I think even the reform system, the prison system, and everything is a lot more humane over there, and actually works as well. It's shown that it actually generates the results that we're all looking for anyway.
It seems like in a lot of ways that we sort of stuck in the past still.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think there's a lot of things in Scandinavia you can look at.
It's true. One of our artists, Jamie Webster, actually wrote a song about the ballad of Davy Kane. We're talking about that whole thing of the difference of the reform systems in both Scandinavia and the UK. Really,
So this is Jamie Webster.
He wrote
with Modern Skies.
He sang to Modern Sky.
So if anyone wanted to check him out, Jamie Webster, you just find him on YouTube, can you? Or?
He's
everywhere.
everywhere.
He's everywhere.
Jamie's everywhere.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's the song Paradise.
Weekend in
Paradise. That's one of his. That's his top. Well, he's a red, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's a red. So every time I go to the pub, I go, Junior, play Weekend in Paradise. I'm blame. I'm learned it.
Looks like you survived the drop anyway.
Nearly.
But he's talking about music, so before we go on, so when you came in the other week, you popped in, Junior had said to me about one of the bands that you guys look out for or look after is Lathams, is that how you pronounce it? Lathams?
Yeah.
So you've got to forgive me, right? So I'm with later music, more modern music bands and stuff like that. I'm totally out of the loop, right? But I looked and they were the third UK band to get their first 2 albums to #1. Is that right?
Yeah. So they're the third UK act. Their consecutive first two albums have gone straight to #1.
And the other
the Beatles, the Arctic Monkeys, and them.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But again, you talk about them. It's. I think there's a tendency for people to look and think it's all champagne and roses really for bands really as well. These are very young lads, 22 years of age, signed when they were 17 years of age.
Wow! Yeah.
So it's been even though it's been a great journey and they've seen the world and are continuing to see the world, it's also not been without its bumps in the road really, in terms of their own mental health.
It's hard work. It's hard work. It's hard. People don't realise how hard it is.
I think it's the hard work. I think a lot of it's to do with social media.
Yeah.
And the way that social media, certain individuals and certain groups of people deal with social media and the way they communicate with artists and with anyone else that they feel is kind of easy pickings, really. All of our artists, again, without breaching confidentiality, it's quite open, really, have had issues with, their mental health due to primarily due to social media.
Yeah, that's really sad, isn't it? It's how do you guys? So without obviously going into personal stuff, how have you guys managed that as a company looking after?
Very hard, even our own staff. Really, well, the first thing you need to do is get them off. And that can be difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of their lifeblood in a day where radio is not important anymore to break an act, and where press is not really important anymore. Where acts kind of the kind of fighting ground for acts and artists is on social media platforms, really. The conversion rates and all those type of things that go with it. And so to then extricate an artist from there because they may be having a tough time can be tough in itself. But that's certainly your first port of call. And look at how you manage that. If you can get it managed, so managing the social media platforms for them, and then beyond that, then getting them the help that they need. If help is needed, professional advice and professional counselling and so on. Because certainly I'm not equipped to do something like that. And it's very difficult. It's very sad sometimes to see people that should be having the time of their lives, doing the thing that they love. Sometimes really struggling because of the pressures that kind of that are coming at them for no reason. Really.
So I was just going to say, and as you say, as this time when they should be enjoying it. It's kind of that's what when you're a kid, that's what you've worked. That's your dream to play guitar, sing, and let people like your music, and then you do it, and then it has sometimes it has the adverse effect where because someone don't like your music, they call you, and that's you think to yourself, well, what are you doing? You know yourself. Any artist probably how good you are as a person, as an artist, but when someone else is having a view about you who don't even know you,
it's very difficult. Some of these, our artists have millions of people following them and so on, and 99% of everything would be not not adulation, 'cause it's not like they're craving adulation
No.
either, really. You know,
No.
listen, we've all got egos. It's nice when people say nice things about any of us.
Exactly. Yeah.
So of course they do that, but they don't crave it.
No.
But then the very tiny minority that do, that's the bit that they'll hook onto.
Yeah.
That's the bit
Yeah.
that they'll latch onto. That's the bit they can't get out of their head, really,
Yeah.
a lot of the time. Some can, and you get better at it. You can learn ways to manage those emotions, really. But it's very difficult, particularly when you're going through it for the first time. It's a bit like, we just talking about panic, it's a bit like learning how to deal with anxiety or learning to deal with anything. Really. You've got to learn how to deal with that, because that then stimulates feelings of negativity or whatever it might be. And so learning coping mechanisms to do that can be very, very tough, really. So again, like I said, it's the dream job working with the arts, with what we do. But there are, like anything, when you're working with people, it's not a tin of beans.
No.
You don't put it on a shelf and then that's your job done. Really, there's a lot more duty of care that goes with it, really. And that's the rewarding thing, but also the challenging thing as well.
With I was interested. You mentioned when you arrived earlier. Thanks again for coming on.
It's all right, yeah.
And just before I say, so if anybody has any questions at all, please comment away. Got any questions for Dave about anything?
Duncan Cowley's mentioned, if Dave wants a photographer, I'm available, and the New York sounds nice.
What, sorry?
Duncan Cowley.
One of our regular viewers, he's a photographer. He does all events like Greenfields and I think he actually did Soundcity.
He may well have done,
He's one of the photographers.
He just said if you need a photographer, he's available, and New York sounds nice.
Nice one, Duncan.
I was going to ask about. So when you arrived, you said about going to. You've got a trip coming up soon.
Yeah,
very soon. So what's that? Where are you off to? And what's that?
Tomorrow I fly to China and Japan for 2 weeks. Soundcity was a part of Soundcity was an equity share in Soundcity was taken by a Chinese company called Modern Sky. Modern Sky is the largest independent entertainment company in China.
Right.
I was introduced to him by a friend of mine, Seymour Stein.
I saw that,
And so when I was looking for new partners for Soundcity, it was Seymour that introduced me to Modern Sky. And so they took a 30% equity stake in that company, but then part of the deal was they wanted me to grow Modern Sky outside of China.
Right.
At the time, I didn't know what Modern Sky was, really. I was just more interested, selfishly, of wanting a partner for Soundcity, because I wanted to get these other partners I had out at the time.
Yeah.
And so I then went to China for the first time when they took the stake in Soundcity. I fell in love with the place, really. The company is a very young company. It's been going since 1996. When I say young, lots of young people, 300 young people in Beijing alone, running this business, this mammoth of a business, which is, records, publishing, management, festivals, doing 1 million tickets a year on the festivals, a platform called MNow, which is a kind of video on demand platform with ticketing running through. It's got like 46 million subscribers to that, young people, so it's kind of like a pipeline into China, to the youth pipeline into China. So it's been a very exciting journey. And before, the last time I was there was January 2020. I got out on the last plane when COVID hit. So Beijing went into lockdown, and I was literally, I think, the second to last plane out. It's the first time I'd ever worn a mask at that time. And so I've got a lot of friends, a lot of allies, a lot of colleagues that I saw maybe 4 times a year, and I've not seen them for 3.5 years. So this is my first time going back to China tomorrow. And in the middle of it, I'm going to hop over to Tokyo, because one of our artists, Mick Head, is playing in Tokyo. He's got 3 shows.
Where's he from? Mick Head?
Mick Head is he's Liverpool. Mick Head was the lead singer with Pale Fountains and Shaq.
Oh, right.
Michael Head and the Red Elastic Band. So we gave him his first top 10 album. This year. So Mick is playing with his band in Tokyo and Osaka.
Right.
So I'm going to go see his 2
shows. Right.
But I've got a lot of meetings and
Yeah.
but I'll find time
You've got
to
to have time. Yeah.
relax.
Yeah.
Swimming or whatever.
Yeah.
What I wanted to ask actually, this is a question where it's delving a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's good to talk about having those conversations that we all need to have, right? So, is there a time that stands out to you as being in your life at any point whether you feel that you were really in a lonely point, a lonely place, or a really dark place in your life? Would you mind sharing one of those times with us?
Yeah, there was. And you still kind of have the moments now. There was a time, I think I hit about probably hitting the age of 40, around when I was about 40. So 20 years ago now, that would have been. And I remember the exact time. I was on a train to Glasgow with my wife. And I had this sudden adrenaline overwhelming feeling. Which I kind of now know was a panic attack, It had, and then we got to Glasgow. We were seeing friends, and I couldn't get rid of it. It was there, and it manifested then, and it's just some really, really dark thoughts. It was for a few weeks, and then a panic attack would overtake me every now and again. I felt like, and then I was just living in fear of when the next one is going to come. And it was a terrible, terrible part of my life. I saw the doctor, and I was prescribed at the time antidepressants that didn't work. They made me feel worse. Actually, I felt more suicidal with me. Yeah. So I did some counselling, and it took a long time when I came through. I actually think the trigger for it, and I'll be absolutely honest, I used to work for an organisation called In the City. Which was a similar thing to Soundcity run by Tony Wilson. And if I'm being honest, it was through the heyday of the 90s, and there was a lot of substance abuse.
Of course.
So a lot of ecstasy, a lot of cocaine, and mainly ecstasy, I guess, and other things. And I remember being carried out of the Midland Hotel on a stretcher, because what I now know, I thought I just took too much that night. I was uncontrollably shaking, and I ended up in Manchester Royal Infirmary with ECGs all over me, and it was a panic attack basically, is what had happened. And then a couple of weeks later, when I'm going to Glasgow, the next one came and it triggered them, and I had a really bad time then. And I think it was them making life-changing decisions really about the choices that you make in life, really, and I'm still working in music, so you can imagine I still see lots of things. But for me, that was a big change. I was a person that went out on Thursday and came home on Sunday in those days, really, And now I'm kind of a person that goes to bed at 9 o'clock and gets up at 6 o'clock, really, I love both parts of my life. I've got no regrets of that part of my life. I'm not saying do it or don't do it. It's just the path I chose to take. And I've got no regrets about that. I'm as happy as I was then. In those things. The yin and the yang are just different. There's a different yin and yang now. And so, but they're both equally enjoyable. And I've now learned to kind of deal with life in a slightly different way. But it took time. It took a long time, and the panic. I learned to measure them now. So even though we're talking about them now, you always feel them, don't you? When you talk about them. So when you talk about them, you get slightly breathless. But you measure them. You think, okay, old friend, here you are. I now know you very, very well. And I talk to them that way. And so it's kind of and I measure them. I think that rationalised it for me. So the worst I ever was a 10. 10 out of 10. At the moment, I'm about a 2. Really, it's kind of, so it's okay, really. I hope I never get there again. Never say never. You don't know if you ever will.
So you are much more self-aware, aren't you, now than you were?
I think so. I'm not sure how much self-aware
of
those. I'm aware of those. Funny enough, when I say I'm going to China, tomorrow, it's when I'm on my own sometimes. When I'm in hotel bedrooms or whatever, sometimes. Oh my God, what if I pop my clogs now in the night, and no one will find me for the next 3 days? You have weird thoughts really catastrophizing thoughts that, really. And then you just got to go, get a grip of yourself,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
just try and
Yeah.
do that. So we all have different coping mechanisms, and we all catastrophize in our own way, really. You know, I think it's a human condition. You know, what's with the fight or flight thing, isn't it? Really? It's,
I think the problem comes, obviously, it can be really useful to hear somebody talking about how they've gone through something.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do share, a lot of people have that feeling of anxiety.
Yeah.
It's one of the most common things that people, you know.
I don't know
talk to me
anyone
about.
that's not had them actually
Yeah,
since
yeah.
then. I think back to childhood. And I remember coming down to see my mum when I was very young, and I just don't think we understood them then. Let's go back to the 70s.
Yeah.
So I would come down to my mum when I was very young. I can remember when I couldn't sleep, I was kind of, and I'd say, Mum, everything feels like it's going fast. I used to say that the world feels like it's going too fast.
Yeah.
And she'd say, "Oh, you're all right, son." And she'd give me a hug and all this kind of stuff. And they were quite, at least once a month, I'm feeling that kind of adrenaline rush now. And I realise now they were probably panic attacks, mild panic attacks. But I just didn't know how to contextualise them or whatever else it would be. No. But at that time, it just felt like the world was going fast. That's the way I interpret it.
Did you ever? So one of the common things that, as I obviously doing this and talking to lots of people, you start to realise one of the best things is that wow, so other people have gone through. So when you're talking about being a child, one of my things was that point that you get to. So for me, it was probably around like 10, 11, something like that. Actually starting to approach puberty. And my son was going through a similar thing with questions in his head at the moment. Is the whole thing of, okay, well, so my nan's dead. What happens? Then my mum and dad, and then me. You know, when you're going through all these thoughts in your head of the existential crisis almost. Yeah. So do you remember that time? Because that for me, I remember specifically, you know, that I had massive anxiety. Just thinking about what's coming almost. You know?
I didn't, if I'm being honest. I had a quite traumatic. My dad got murdered. My dad got murdered when I was 9 years of age. I only found out that he was murdered when I was 12.
Oh, wow.
No, it's fine. I can talk about it. That's what I mean. So for me, it was something that I kind of, when I found out, I was very upset. But I wasn't upset. Obviously, but I was upset about my dad when he went. But it was all very biblical, almost. It was like, your dad's gone, he's gone to heaven, he's still with you. Very Catholic in the way it was dealt with, really. Yeah. And I was fine. I always remember, I wrote a song about it many years later called Crocodile Tears, because I remember crying at my dad's funeral, but they didn't feel like real tears. It was almost like, I felt like I've got to cry. Yeah. So I kind of made myself cry in some ways, you know. And I think sometimes, that's the pressure thing, because we all deal with grief in different ways. I obviously dealt with it in my way. My brother was too young, so he can't remember it. And so it was, and then you know, that's the reason I'm Pichilngi. Fenlon is my brother's Fenlon. I'm Pichilingi because I adopted my stepfather's surname when I was 26 years of age, because he's been our dad all our life.
Yeah.
But going back to the thing about that death thing, the only time it really hit me was in January this year. My mum died, and that was when it felt. That felt like the umbilical cord was gone. Yeah. And I still talk to my mum all the time, and you know that is still, it's raw, and it also makes me feel, God, you know, I am going, and that's the path that leads us all. It was only when my mum went, and you know, I felt fairly indestructible till then. Now I feel very
vulnerable kind of thing. That's the word.
I think when you have that moment, I'm really sorry.
No, it's all right. It's okay.
And that pain, but that sort of facing your own mortality, it's a very powerful thing, isn't it? I suppose we all need at some point, don't we? Really? Yeah. Even if we don't. But I used to be a bit frightened of it. I don't really feel frightened of it now. I think my mum can do it. Yeah. That's a good place to be. And I think, do you know what? I don't know. But you know, I still wish she was here. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned about the frightened of it. Yeah, it's something that I'm not frightened of it either. So is it something you frightened of it?
I think about it, you know what I mean, and it's something that, you know, I'm trying to allay for as long as I can. You know what I mean? Talking about the blood pressure and all that.
But it's not fear.
Yes.
It's a knowing that I'm going to go. I don't want to go.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I want to, you know, live till 100 and, you know, beyond it. You know, being able to walk and compass mentis, all those things. You know, everyone dreams of. But by the same token, I'm kind of, I'm not frightened of it.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, you sounds like very much you're at peace with.
Yeah, because I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
It's
we
not
all
the
know
same.
that. We all know that, don't you? You feel like you've got so much to achieve still, even at the age I am, and you're still a young lad. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But and I wrote a song about the same thing, about a song called Mars Garden, about my mum, because I got one morning, looked at, and when my mum passed away, my mum passed away when I was 29. She was only 54, but work hard all life for the NHS but there was a rose from her garden. I took and planted. I've still got the rose now, and I planted the rose in my garden. And I've moved a few times. I always move the rose and take it with me. It's growing, still in the garden now where we moved. But one morning I woke up and looked out the window, and actually fell in love with the rose that came through. I wrote a song called Mars Garden about it, talking about But it was just so, I just got this feeling, and my mum is with me every day.
You do. I see a bumblebee, it's my mum. I'll say, hi mum, how are you? The cat, the way sometimes the cat will nuzzle me in a different kind of way and say, you there, aren't you, mum? You there?
Yeah.
I think that's
a powerful thing.
Yeah, I think she is.
Do you know what? I think for me, because I talk a lot about love being the most powerful energy and the most powerful in existence, right? You see how it goes from person to person, and that's really like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? You see, it's the love, isn't it? That connection of love, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Duncan says, talking one day was talking about panic attack, he said, the most scariest things ever happened to me, he said, unless you've been through you never realize how bad it can be. So I thought they were heart attacks. I got help and worked out what triggered them. I've been free of panic attacks for 18 years now.
He has been living with panic attacks.
Yeah, it's draining as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Totally draining.
It's debilitating, it is. And it's overwhelming, and it's, you can't focus on anything else really, because it's always kind of there. So, good Lord, 18 years is a long time.
He said he's been free of
I've been free of it for 18 years.
But because he's worked out what triggered them.
Yeah.
And he's trying,
well, I'm the same. I'm 60 now, so I would say I'm free of them for 18 years.
Yeah,
but he's still there. Like, before. So I don't think it's a bit like a cold sore. They're always there. Just don't wake the buggers up.
How I've been describing it lately, I found really works for me. I've had my own before. It's like that feeling for me was always in the chest. But how it feels for me, and I've described this a few times, is like being on a plane. So I was scared of flying.
Yeah.
So when I was on a plane and scared of flying, then you wanted it to be smooth. And when it's smooth, you start to relax. But then all you need is a little bump, and it comes back here. It's just like the same as
that's a good.
But I think the hardest thing is to realise that life isn't that smooth journey.
No.
But it's almost the catastrophizing part of it. I found that a lot of us we do that when there's a bump. Everything's been going so well, and then no, there's a bump. My life's over. I can't ever do anything right. But the reality is, it's okay, isn't it? You've got to pass those bumps.
Yeah, the first thing you always say with artists is there's going to be bumps in the road. It's just part of life, like there are in life, really. And I always the other thing I would say, one of my overused phrases, it's a long walk up for a quick slide down, really. So enjoy the walk up. Because it's kind of, the moments of glory and all that, happiness, because you can enjoy the walk. You walk up a hill, the views are the best you ever get, aren't they? So look around, really, while you go. Don't have your head down the whole time, really. Enjoy the journey, really.
Yeah, I like that. Someone I know, a wise fellow that I know, he said the same thing. He said, enjoy the journey. It's not just the destination.
No,
I like that.
It really is.
That's a big God. You've got to have me. I mean, as you said, with me playing music, and I absolutely still love playing the guitar and singing at any kind of level that I do it. It's the same. I get the same feeling as if I was playing Wembley, or which I never have. You know what I mean? But if I'm playing, no matter, especially if I'm playing original music and playing somewhere, I still get the same. I get excited. I absolutely love it, and it breaks my heart sometimes when I see young artists on some of these reality programs, or some artists saying, "Oh, this is my last chance." I'm thinking, "You're 18. What do you mean it's your last chance?" If you think that's your last chance, you're involved in music for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? Because it's not about being everyone's not involved in music be a pop star. I enjoy writing songs, even at 63 years old this year. I still love writing a new song. I still love taking it to the band, and I still love playing it and gigging it as much as I can, because it's just the love of music. That's it. That's what enriches my life. It's the love of doing music. It's not. So you shouldn't. I think young artists have got to realize, look, it's a long road, and be involved in music for the right reasons. And it's not. It's not. You don't have to have a hit record to enjoy music.
Some people might never have a hit record but still enjoy music
Exactly.
for their whole lives, really. I think when you're young, though, I guess it's unfair of us to say they're doing it for the wrong reason. They're doing it for what they think is the right reason.
Oh yeah.
That time,
I just meant
when you're young,
it's not.
That can seem like the roots.
It's not over. If someone rejects you,
yeah,
when you're 18, doesn't mean to say that you're rubbish. As you said before, they just don't like what you do.
Some of the greatest artists in this world have got a portfolio full of rejection letters. Really, I was reading a thing today, actually, just before I came here, of John Cleese has printed all of the rejection letters he got for Faulty Towers at the time. Really, people said the jokes were corny. You need to get them out of the hotel. All the kind of stuff that went really, And he was swimming in the. So it must be an anniversary.
I think they're talking about bringing it back as well, isn't he?
Oh yeah, I mean that sounds. I don't like the sound of that, to be honest. But then again, am I just being like that?
You're the rejection.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a thing about David Bowie as well. When David Bowie when he's starting out, I think he sent something to the BBC to get him, and apparently they said to him, he can't sing, he hasn't got the look, his teeth are crooked, he can't do anything, he's never going to be anything.
That's true. Bowie's a great example of someone who persevered.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, he wasn't, by the time Ziggy Stardust broke, really, I think he was 23 years of age. He'd been doing it since he was 16.
Yeah.
Been a rejection after
rejection. Really, Yes, you've got to.
He just found his lane.
Yeah, that's it.
It's funny that my son is 11, and he didn't know who David Bowie was, but he loves Starman. He loves listening to his songs. It's over the generations, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just want to say at this point, I have to say thank you again to all. So thank you to Avanti for letting us use the room, and Laura, who I haven't mentioned yet.
Laura's watching. She's watching.
Hey, Laura. And she recently won an award. Did you know that?
Yeah, she did. She did win an award.
So Laura is the community champion here at the station.
Right.
So with It's Good to Talk, we are a social enterprise. So we always looking for places to reach out and help people. So how this came about was Laura with Junior. She said to Junior, and Junior, I knew Junior from doing some other work.
Yeah.
And then this came available. So we because we haven't got money to pay for things like this. So we have this free of charge, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's also open to other groups in the community. So if you have a charity or organisation you want to use the room for something, just get in touch. Also, I wanted to say as well, thank you to our new partner. So we have a new partner that partnered with the show, and they are Global Wind Power. So really, really happy to welcome them on board, and they're going to be helping us. A big part of what this is social enterprise, and it's reaching out in lots of different ways. So we're always grateful for any support that we have, whatever kind of support, whether it's you watching and clicking and reacting, commenting on any of the stuff that we do or on the show, or whether it's financial support or time that you can give. If you've got a spare studio mic knocking around in your garage or something, and you want to send it over to us, feel free. But yeah, so it's all working together a lot. So I really wanted to say welcome on board to Global Wind Power. So our new partners. So coming back to this, Dave, you mentioned you seem pretty clued up on well-being and the mental health aspect of it. And do you think that's come from your own journey when you were saying about 20 years ago? That's helped.
I think that's probably gave me that general understanding of it. Again, like I said at the very beginning, I'm a generalist, not a specialist. I would never claim to be a mental health expert. What I'm aware of is that all of us have mental health problems, really. And when I say all of us, I mean all of us. Really.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone that doesn't really. Even my dad's generation, really, of men pulled it in. Really, there's stuff beneath the surface. They're the toughest ones, probably in many ways. They don't talk. So it's just an understanding and an empathy that we have it. And I guess working with, um, I guess with my companies, it's less so. I'm less liable to spot things that's going on there. But with artists, I think because of the closeness you get to artists, particularly if you're managing an artist, you do begin to understand how they tick and what's really going on in their mind, really. So you're always on the lookout for how you can commercialize what they do, because we want to make money out of what they do. But by the same token, you've always got an eye on, are they losing weight? Are they, is their behaviour slightly different or abnormal to what it might usually be, really, and then they're the key things, really. I noticed through lockdown, there were lots of things like that where artists were caged, not just our artists, all artists, and not just artists, young people, really, to have their life cut in the way that it was, and particularly with some of the artists, when we talk specifically about ours, because they were on such momentum before they went into it, and then to have their wings clipped. It was a very difficult thing, really, and so dealing with that, I learned a lot more about dealing with it during that time.
Never too old to learn something new, are you?
Not at all, not at all. And I think spotting things. The other thing in our business is addictions as well. So it's keeping an eye on things like that. Thankfully, I would say that the generation generally coming through now is not as hedonistic. Certainly, there are different types of. I wouldn't say problems, because it's, like I said, I enjoyed my life, but different things to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
But by the same token, I think they are a lot more clued up, certainly than my generation was. We were coming through.
So what do you say about addictions? What's interesting? So a big addiction now we talk about it a lot is social media and phones, and the understanding. So I think generally a lot of people don't realise that that's what that's providing.
Absolutely.
So you're getting the dopamine hits, so the addiction of something which is inherently often negative.
That's right.
Especially when we talk about the social media and how negativity is the push, is what's pushed, because that gets them more ratings. So then and they've admitted this, the big social media companies, that they push the negative narratives.
Yeah.
So you've got this addictive thing with social media. Young people, and all the place where you need foundation, don't you, and stability really when you're growing up. So you've got that almost cocktail for disaster, I suppose, in a lot of ways.
I think so.
Even though it's not, what my point is, the addictions might be different. Whereas years ago they were addicted to other things possibly, but now social media.
It's a very good point. Yeah, I think the kind of like you said, the kind of constant craving for likes or thumbs up or whatever it is that you're looking for, really. And I also think the rabbit holes that you can go down on some social media platforms. We all do it, I'm guilty of getting lost on TikTok for an hour. You've got spare time, and before you know it, a whole hour's gone on TikTok, and you've been down several rabbit holes.
How did I get here?
Exactly, So, and the effect that has really doesn't always make you happy, really. Like I said, it can bring on quite negative feelings, really. So it's very difficult, and again, it's not very visible. Because everyone's doing it. With some addictions, you can see what people are putting in the bodies or whatever. With this, you can't really see what people are putting in the bodies, really.
Have you got a question maybe about school? I'm just going to sort the camera out. For some reason.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, Dave, what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? In my career or in my life?
Well, just in general, it just as you as a human being.
I'm most proud of my two kids.
Dave, I was hoping you said that. You know what I mean?
They're the proudest thing. The best thing I've ever done, really.
Yeah.
I love a cup of tea.
Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect answer, because we ask people this all the time to see, how what they're gonna. And name of everyone always say the kids, if they've got kids, they always say.
I mean, for me, some people don't have children, do they, you know, and choose not to. But for me, making that decision to have children, no matter what else I do in life, is the best decision I ever made.
Exactly.
We ever made, you know. Today. You know, they're just the journey of watching your children grow up and become, you know, fully functioning human beings, you know, and engaging with other people, and people telling you what great people they are as well. You know, that's you know, wow, what a great job I've done by you.
And being a parent is, you know, there's no book that tells you how to be a parent.
You've
got to navigate it.
You know, but it's an amazing journey.
Oh yeah, without doubt.
I miss it so much actually.
As your lad taking the music?
No, he works for us in Modern Sky.
Right.
He's very good. Max is you know, he's such a gregarious human being.
Yeah.
He loves to party, Max.
Yeah. Well, he's a young,
you know,
he's very young.
And he's a real doer, but his social skills are wonderful, really. You know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm very proud of him, what he's doing. Emily's a slightly different animal. She's kind of quieter, but very sarcastic.
Yeah.
But very clear about what she wants to be. She wants to go into musical theatre, you know.
Right.
She's wanted to do that since she was 12 years of age. So, you know, there's a very, you know, clear path that she sees anyway. Like we were saying before, the journey might not be quite as she imagines it.
Yeah.
And part of our working with her is to talk her through that, really, because to manage her expectations, really.
Yeah.
We all know, you know, what is it? Someone said, life only makes sense when you look backwards, really.
Yeah.
It never goes to plan.
No, it doesn't.
But when you're young, it's a bit like your story before about the going on Pop Idol or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You think that is the way, that's the path, that's my path. And if it doesn't work out, you think, oh my God, my life's over. And of course, we all know it's not.
No, yeah.
You've got to dust yourself down and start again, really.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. You were talking about acting before, and you've only said it funny enough that you studied acting and all that, you know. And I did exactly the same thing. I went to college, but back to college again.
Yeah.
And went back to John Moores and studied drama for 3
years. It was called Liverpool Poly then.
Yeah. I went back in 2000. I went, and then I thought, you know, was study acting and did some stuff, you know. But yeah, that was interesting when you said that. You know, I didn't know that about you, Dave. I didn't know that you did that as well.
Well, we've actually got next week. We've got an actress. Oh, is it no? The week after, we've got an actress coming up, and she's her name's Michelle. She's just done a show on Disney Plus. It's on Disney Plus called Small Light.
Right. Yeah.
So the acting thing. Yeah, we're gonna. You're both actors as well, really, aren't you? Essentially.
I'm acting just being here.
I loved it. You know, talk about now when you know I can't play golf and all that, and I've often thought I'd like to do bits again. I was a huge fan of Pinter.
Yeah,
I love Theatre of the Absurd.
Theatre
of Cruelty, and Inesco and
Anthony Nato.
Yeah, you know.
Anthony Nato, yeah.
You know, so I love that kind of type of theatre. And I've often thought I'd like to get back into it somehow.
Yeah.
You know,
We did the Married Side at John Moores. That was a Married Side with Anthony Nato. He wrote.
Did Dave Llewellyn train you?
Yes.
Yeah, well, he trained me when I was.
You're joking.
No,
what a guy.
Yeah, I used to go to Edinburgh and stuff with him doing pieces up there.
Yeah, we did. I did an Edinburgh one. What a great guy.
Great mentor.
A fantastic Lou.
Mentors are important.
Exactly. He was great. Lou was great with me as a mature student. You know what I mean? He was fantastic.
It's funny that we both had the same.
Yeah. He's just a great bro.
84
really.
to 88.
Yeah, 84 to
I've got a question for you from Reese. So Reese is one of our regular viewers. He wants to. So actually, while I'm thinking about it, so Junior, you're going to see after Junior does a little title song.
Yeah.
We have a show, right? It's called Dreams, and we need to get it recorded, don't we? You've been meaning to do it for weeks and weeks and weeks, haven't you? But anyway, so Reese is one of our regular guys, and when he heard Junior's song, he said, "Oh, can you get it recorded? Because I want to play it." He has a little radio show.
Yeah.
This question is to you, Dave. He says, "What's the one thing you'd like to change about working in the music business?" So I think maybe he means about the music business, maybe, or is there something
there's
you would like
probably
to
lots
change?
of things, really. You know, one thing I'd like to change about the music business. A very tough question, that. I think from the mental health point of view, which is kind of why we're all here today, I guess, you know, would be the way that social media platforms are managed, really, you know, and the fact this isn't just the music business, this is a wider thing, but it would certainly help artists within the music business. You know, kind of anonymous accounts and so on, and people that kind of set up things just to attack people, really. I think the damage that those people do, those groups of people do, I think if they knew what they did, imagine probably some of them do, there's probably some vindictive streak through some people do it, but the damage that they do is really quite serious to the people that consume that negative energy that comes through them. And so some kind of way to not ban, because ban is a very serious thing, but making people accountable for the things that they say really, I think would be a really important step to help an artist. There's many of things in the commercial side, you know, in terms of streaming and so on and so forth that I'd love to change. But I think that alone with social media platforms would have a very would be a step in the right direction, at least, to for the mental health of people using.
Yeah. So essentially, the social media aspect of it, that's what you change, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I think social media is a great thing.
Yeah,
I do. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
You know, like I said before, in a world where radio isn't important anymore, in a world where press is not really important anymore, social media is the ground. You know, so the relationship, if you go back 30 years, the relationship artists had with their fans was very removed. So you know, you had a situation before MySpace and everything else where the artist, the only thing we knew about artists was what the media and a press release chose to tell us about the artist. That was all we knew.
Yeah.
So the artist was almost behind the Wizard of Oz curtain, you know, and it was all on the screen, and what was on the screen is what we chose to believe. You didn't get near the artist. And then along with MySpace and everything else that changed all that, and that ripped the Wizard of Oz's curtain down. And all of a sudden, no one looked at the screen anymore, i.e. the radio. Or the media. They had a direct relationship with the artist.
Yeah.
And so that changed the whole dynamic of things. Because what that meant was now the artist had to speak to the fans directly, and had to speak in a very authentic, true voice. You know, had to bare their soul, really. Because in those days, you know, you could tell people rock gods or whatever, and so we thought the personalities were like the way they were on stage. What we now realise is what they are on stage is not what they're like off stage, really. You know?
No.
And so the artists bare their souls, really. That's very tough. You know, that is very tough. Because you put a press release out, and the artist had nothing to do with that. They could just go and do a string of interviews. The job was done. Now, you've got to live and breathe this stuff every single day. So it's great, but it's also very time consuming. It's very, you know, it takes its toll on your mental health and so on. And so I think, you know, it's not going to go away. It's the way we live our lives now. It's probably going to change with AI and get even more complex. I think one thing that needs to be done is the companies that own these platforms need to be accountable for the people that use these platforms, really, and they should be accountable to themselves. And at the very least is they shouldn't be allowed to hide behind anonymous faces that, you know, it needs to be, you know,
I think
Julia from Runcorn.
I think there's two aspects that jump out when you're talking about that as well. So one is does it really, really well is Lewis Capaldi. Lewis Capaldi Lewis Capaldi, the singer, Scottish guy. So he does all the social media really, really well. In the sense, I think that I don't follow him. I don't see much of his stuff, but when I see it, it crops up. He's just being himself. I'm sure it's been hard to get to
Do you
get
know
to that
much
point.
about Lewis Capaldi?
I know about he's got Tourette's, hasn't he?
Tick. He's got
tick.
Yeah,
other issues and things.
And because of social media, he makes it look so effortless. But the pressure he's put on himself personally and professionally has been absolutely huge. You know, I don't know if you watched the Netflix documentary. It's on. It's an absolute insight. It's amazing. I mean, you should watch it. again, you know, in terms of mental health, because I think the assumption we all had about Lewis was, oh, this is a walk in the park for him. You know, it's absolutely easy for him. He's amazing on social media. He's such a funny guy. He's like a Peter Kay character, the way he deals with it and so on and so forth. When you actually see remove the Wizard of Oz curtain and see actually the journey he's been on, it's harrowing, absolutely harrowing and heartbreaking actually some of it as well. You know, you know, and I think that there again, you know, it demonstrates just how difficult it is for everyone, really. You know, I think
the other aspect was that Lewis Capaldi, I thought he's done a really good job in the sense, obviously, there's been through difficult circumstances, but he seems to, his fans seem to have that understanding that that is really who they're looking at, really him. But then conversely, you've got the other side of it. I think that social media, another negative aspect of it, really negative, is the whole point that people can still, I think this goes on a lot with influencers, is put out to people what they want to put out to people, making it out that that's their life, right? So I saw something the other day with Paris Hilton, remember Paris Hilton? Remember Paris Hilton, the blonde, right? So she was sat doing some kind of interview, TV interview or something, and she is trying to relaunch herself, I think. And she was just sat there being very, very different to the whole all those years. And she's just saying that was my role, that was my character. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't really get enough, maybe, that when they, and now this new age of information, so, you know, like you look at actors in general, like she was acting, so her whole thing that everyone thought that was really her, that was acting. And I don't think people really get that, how often that can be the case with actors. So, you know, you said with music, you said, well, say for example, you've got an actor, Hollywood actor, and or a stage actor, whatever, and they're being reeled out to do the press releases, the interviews for the show they've got coming up. So nobody really has any way of knowing whether that's the person they're performing that role as the public persona of who they are, or that's really the person. And that's something that I think when it opens your eyes a little bit, you know.
Yeah, it does. I think, you know,
because they're actors, it's their profession, so they can literally be whoever
and some
they
are
want
more, some are more happy to let the curtain down than others. Really, some will continue to play the role that they think they're playing, and others will be slightly more honest about it. Really, I think it's how you feel comfortable, isn't it? Really, you know, you read a lot of stuff about actors who get into acting because they don't really like themselves. You know, and so acting is a way of kind of hiding your real self. Really, you know, you can become that. Not all actors, but you know, some people do. Men and women, you know, refer to actors in that sense.
Actors,
I think, but I think, you know, in terms of going back, it's very difficult to know how much of yourself to bear. To fandom, really, you know, because I think with social media, it brings a very voyeuristic element to it that they want to know everything about your life, really, you know. You know, and there are things that you just don't want to share. Some people are quite happy to share a lot of stuff, others not too much, really, you know. And so again, that's part of the dilemma that artists have these days, really, you know. You know, you go back again 30 years, you didn't have to talk about your family in any way, really, you know, or anything to do with your life outside of the profession that you're in, really, you know. It wasn't expected. Now it's expected to do that.
And then to be judged on it as well, I suppose, isn't it? You know? And that's the unfortunate thing, if you think of it. So that when you look at somebody from the outside, like you're saying, somebody's able to think, oh, their whole life as you know, that I can see. So what makes me think is, say for example, how people look and judge whether it's a star or it's a politician or whoever it is that they look at, have a tendency to sort of judge everything. They base everything. So say for example, you know, you might have somebody sitting talking to us, and then they like that person. They think, oh, I've seen them in such and such, or I've heard their songs, I really like them. But then they say something about their life that maybe that person doesn't like or doesn't agree with or doesn't connect with. We have a tendency, I think, a lot right now to be sort of either or, which is a shame, and get judged on that thing in your life. Whereas reality, we, you know, how I see it, we have things that we agree on and have things that you disagree on. It doesn't have to be so
black and white. I think so. I think it's, you know, the prevalent mood at the moment is wokeism, isn't it? Really, you know, and I think there is a lot of wokeism in what we see.
Yeah.
I'm certainly, I put my foot in it a lot of the time, really, you know. I always, my analogy or the example I would always give is like my granddad said things that were highly inappropriate when we were growing up, but there was no hatred in them.
Exactly.
It was just a lack of understanding, really. And I think, you know, empathy and understanding is the key thing with everything, really. You've got to try and stand on the hill, understand the world from the point of view from what you're receiving, really, from the person who received it. But if you can, sometimes it's very difficult to do that, of course, and it's a very extreme view on something. And you're unlikely to ever change people's views like that. I think where it becomes a problem is exactly like you just said, where there's no room for debate. I think when you can't debate something, that's a very, very dangerous thing. When you pigeonhole something to the point, to the nth degree, where, you know, I think that's almost going full circle and probably going to open a can of worms. It's full circle, and that's kind of what the Nazis did, really. They pigeonholed everyone and put everyone in a box. So that's what you are. And I think that's very difficult because it's not as simple as that.
No.
You know, and I think we should be allowed to debate and discuss things not from a place of hatred and not from a place of trying to shift your opinion, but from a place of me trying to understand you and you trying to understand me. You know, and as long as there's no hatred in any bits of that, I think that's fine, actually.
I think that's 100%. That's
to
healthy,
do that. It's very difficult sometimes, you know, to do that with some people.
Because
I find it hard with my daughter sometimes to have those kind of conversations, and I don't think she's unusual. I think there is an element of that's the way we see things. And then, but I try to see it from her point of view and think, I was probably like that myself when I was 16 years of age as well. So I think, you know, the whole hormonal thing that's going on with younger people. So I think you've got to be careful to say, oh, just because I'm old, I'm wiser. You know, you're not necessarily. You're just, you know, you might not. You know, you're never told to learn is the same. So you got to listen. But listening goes both ways.
It does. There seems to be, what you said about the debate, there seems to be so much of that it isn't about learning and understanding each other. Unfortunately, it's too often about me trying to get my opinion onto you, and it's like a battle. You know, that I've got to change your opinion, you've got to change mine, and it's almost, and it's not reality.
You're never going to do that,
No,
you know. But you can at least walk away from it understanding better.
Yeah, and understanding.
Think that.
And how about having a base level? So you say that. So we're talking. We're on totally different sides of the debate. But how about having that old-fashioned thing that, okay, let's agree to disagree. You know, let's just move on from this and walk away from it, not hating each other, understanding that you have your ways and thoughts and feelings and opinions. I have my ways and thoughts and feelings and opinions. And maybe this, if we don't want to spend any time together, no problem. You know, live and let live, sort of thing.
You walk away just whisper under your breath, you're wrong, I'm right.
Does it work when the wife says, well, I want to decorate the house, and you go, well, I want green. It's not going to happen, is it? It's not, you don't win.
Their debate's not worth it.
Pick your battles,
you just don't win with them, you know what I mean?
You got to pick your battles.
You're going down the wrong path. I'm not going down that path.
Exactly,
yeah. Tony was watching me. You've got to be careful.
Yeah. That's why I mentioned it.
Have you got any decorating coming up soon, Junior?
Yeah, plenty. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Got to do the decorating.
I've got to get someone to do it.
Right. So
go get someone to do it.
I know a good guy if you want.
There you go, sorted. Not just music, but decorating as well.
Yeah.
I did want to know. So, overall, then, what does your work and what you do? So, obviously, you're jet setting and you've got a lot of responsibilities and stuff. But how do you think that affects you and your overall well-being, your work that you do?
I think I've got better. I used to find it very, very difficult to delegate, like a lot of people do. Now I'm probably guilty of over-delegating, really, you know. But I guess I now like to try and keep my head as free as I can to think things, really, you know. So traveling helps with me. I love traveling. So 6 hours on a plane, 12 hours on a plane, I like it.
You like flying, Dave?
Nobody can get me. Yeah, I don't mind it these days. You know, I've learned to deal with it, really. You know, again, I don't catastrophize it like I did. Really.
Yeah.
We all have moments, of course, you know. But I don't mind it.
I won't get on the plane anymore, me.
You won't?
No.
That's a shame, really, because the world's a small place. You
I know, yeah.
So I kind of I deal with things a lot better than I think I did going back, and I think age and having been through things, experienced things,
Yeah.
helps with that, because you've got coping mechanisms now. I swim a lot.
Yeah.
I do yoga every day,
Yeah, that's
even if it's just 10 minutes.
Right.
Yoga every day. I had a cold. I wasn't here because I was quite ill last week, so I had this lingering cold that wouldn't go away. So I didn't do it. You feel guilty not doing it for a few days, really.
Yeah.
So I do that, and that really helps. Physically, mentally, it's really helped me. I'm not very good at it, but it's good. I'm good enough.
For you,
yeah. I do it on my own. I don't go to any classes.
Yeah.
I was seeing on YouTube yoga with Dave Pichilingi.
Oh no,
nothing like that.
Yeah,
Little
maybe
podcast.
for people a bit older than me, maybe. But I love it. So and for me, they're the kind of things that I like. Exercise is good. Reading. Try to manage my time on social media and emails. Emails I still don't like. If I could delegate all of my emails, I would. But it's you talked about one of your guests actually going back down a coal mine thing. What we do is not digging coal, really. So you have to remind yourself of that sometimes. We don't deal with, thankfully, by the grace of God, we don't deal with third world problems. We're all relatively okay, really. So you have to remind yourself of things like that. I think you have to remind yourself how lucky you are. I do try and remind myself how lucky I am.
Yeah, but
you make your own luck, but time and opportunity and being in the right place at the right time is a big part of everything.
Yeah.
So I thank myself. I do thank for things like that. And so at moments when you are going down those things, you just try to reassure yourself.
Yeah,
things
be aware of
like that,
it. Be aware of it.
Yeah, exactly.
What you just said about the third not being involved in third world problems, it reminded me of Denzel Washington. So I saw something recently. A few years ago, they got a few directors around the table, movie directors, and Denzel was one of them. And they sometimes have a tendency, I think, to be, with the award ceremonies and interviews, these A-listers almost have a tendency to be that this is so important to life, And he was sat there saying basically, look, like, we need to get this right, guys. Like, we just make movies, They're great and they can speak to people, whatever, and all that, but all we do is make movies, and we're in a really privileged position. You don't have to worry about whether you're picking your child up from a war-torn situation, that. All this different stuff, but basically he was dead on, wasn't he? I love that.
It's hard, isn't it? I think sometimes because everything's relative, isn't it?
Of course,
and it's the fight or flight thing again, really. So if you've never been in a third world situation or never been in a war situation, all that, then the only thing you can get down about is to what you can relate to. So it's the feeling is the same.
Yeah, of course.
The feeling is the same whether you're in a war torn situation or you're in Costa Coffee getting your coffee, really, on a Monday morning. It's no less or no worse when you have those feelings. It's not more overwhelming because you're in that situation. So I do take the point. It's relative, but I think for me, it just helps to understand how lucky we are, and not a way of being glad I'm not there because in other situations, but just I sometimes say to my kids, you 3 hours away on a plane or 4 hours on a plane, this kid's starving. Haven't got their meal. We need to do. Not banging any book in it, but we need to recognise how lucky we actually are.
Yeah, true.
Even in a nation, and how this it's something that I feel very strongly about, the disparity.
Yeah.
When you can go. So I live 2 miles away in a little town called Frodsham.
Yeah.
It's a lovely little town. Lovely little town, and there's a lot of wealth in the area.
Yeah.
And then you can go 2 miles down the road, and it's the exact opposite. And that it's the disparity that it's not one for me. It's not wanting to take from when people shouldn't have or anything like that. It's just about the fact of can we do more for each other.
Yeah. And we're always measuring ourselves. I think that's the thing. It's a human condition that we measure ourselves. The other thing I don't do, and I've not done for years now, is watch the news. I don't watch any news.
Yeah, very wise. You, I think a lot
I
about
put it
guests.
completely out.
Yeah,
that's
it's the same.
really
That's what we
I don't know what's going on with anything.
No,
I don't care. Football, I dip into, I look into that.
Do you find so actually very interesting. So it's something that I recommend. Don't watch the news.
No,
You don't watch it either.
no, don't watch the
Something
news.
we talk about, right? And a few of the guests don't watch the news. So do you find, as yourself, do you find any negative from not watching news? Do you feel like you miss out on life? And you're obviously a CEO of a big company, and you're traveling around the world. So is it something that negatively impacts your life?
No, not at all. I think it was such a blessing, really, that the day I decided not to watch or listen to.
We got a guest.
Hello, Mum.
We got a guest.
My mum there, yeah. See, that's my mum. You know. No, I don't think so at all. My wife still does. She Twitter scrolls and all this kind of stuff. And she only use against the stuff she tries to tell me every now and again. It's like, I don't want to know. I don't care. I don't care about any of it really. I just think the media, the role they play instilling fear in people's lives. I think it's very dangerous, really. And I'm not saying there's agenda. There's no conspiracy theory with it. I don't know. But for me, it's just got to a point where I thought, oh my God, this is just too much. Particularly because I was traveling, so you were seeing the views from all around the world. So they're saying this, but we're all liars, aren't we? It's just all nonsense. So don't watch any of it, don't listen to any of it. It's not worth it.
I like something I've said before as well. If you don't believe, if you watch it, you don't get what they say. It's very simple to go and buy 3 newspapers of different, maybe the Express and maybe the Times or Telegraph, and then maybe a red top, and look at one thing that they're covering. All of them are covering the same incident. And look at how different. But they're saying,
and that's
they're
just
sharing,
in this country.
Exactly. They're saying they're just sharing the facts. So I totally agree.
You read the same story the way Russia would write about
that.
That would
China would write about that. And it'd be completely different. And so, news is not facts, it's just a point of view.
Definitely.
Were you just going to say something?
It happened with football, footballers, with footballers, black and white footballers buying houses, and they're comparing, how this stuff, the news, and they're making a big thing out of it, and what the media try to do is put people against each other, put neighbors and families against each other. They want to basically what they want is they want a revolution. They want a war for the government to say, oh yeah, well I told you so, kind of thing. It's just so fancy. I don't stop watching the news myself. I don't bother because I don't want to know. And I checked out basically. I'm a socialist, and I checked out when Jeremy Corbyn was a leader for the Labour Party. I even joined then. I paid up, and after what happened with JC, I checked out. I completely checked out. I was me done with the Labour Party and the politics and everything done.
I don't blame you. I think a lot of people have felt that towards.
For
me, for the whole politics thing, it's just something I stay out of because it's. I feel like it's theatre, It's just
stay out of it now.
And it just gets like distracting.
I just write songs about it now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Which brings me. Are you going to be ready to? Can you get your guitar ready to play us out with Dreams?
With Dreams, yeah, I can.
I'll do that. So we're getting towards the end of it now, and Junior's going to have some bad news, guys, and we don't want to make a fuss of it. Basically, so Junior's going to be with us once a month now. So what we're going to be doing is every week's show on a Monday we have a guest on, and it'll be myself and guest, and then on once a month we're going to have a catch-up show, won't we? Basically, where it's me and Junior, and we can sit down, have a chat, catch up on the month's guests and all that sort of stuff and what's been going on. So we're going to be doing that. Looking forward to that. Also, want to say if you're struggling right now, then you don't have to do it alone. I've been in those places. Dave's been saying that he's been, and I know Junior has as well. And it can be really tough, and it can feel like when you're in that darkness that it's hard to see the light without trying to get too many cliches out. But it's so true, and it could just be sometimes that person that you just open up to. It's just that little helping hand that you need. And that's what we try to do. It's good to talk, but it could be anybody who you reach out to that you feel maybe you trust them, or it could be a stranger on the end of a phone. It could be anything. It's just getting that out, isn't it? Getting that heavy weight. And I know how hard it is when you first share, but after you've done it, you very rarely regret it. You feel a lot lighter from it. So I want to thank you, Dave, very much, mate. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh yeah.
Dave Pichilingi, ladies and gents, and Junior is going to play us out with our title song of Dreams.
You never know what you got till it's gone, and the memory lingers on. And through it all, you gotta be strong. Sometimes you feel you can't carry on. Is life supposed to be this way, or have tomorrow for today? You think you're there and you got it made, but all your dreams they start to fade. And all the people that you know, they all say I told you so. So you pick yourself up and you start again. That's when you find out who's your friend. The one who's there when you're feeling bad, makes you happy when you're sad. You never know what you got till it's gone, and the memory lingers on.